What's up, everybody? Coach Zach here, and today we're talking all about diets. We're going to break down all the popular diets that are out there. We're going to go over the pros, the cons, and at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you my personal opinion on dieting as a whole. There are so many options out there, and it can get overwhelming, especially because everybody believes that their way is right and everyone else is wrong. So which do you choose? You got veganism, carnivore, keto, paleo, vegetarian, pescatarian, Atkins. I mean, there's so much to choose from. Before I get into each specific diet, the way that I see all these diets is that they exist on a spectrum. So you have a spectrum, and on the very ends of the spectrum, you have the most extreme, the most restrictive diets. In this case, we're going to put veganism and carnivore on the ends. So they only eat meat, they don't eat meat. And then we got keto, vegetarian, pescatarian, paleo, and everything else is somewhere in the middle. But on the ends is veganism and carnivore. Now this video is also directed to the majority of people out there. There's a small percentage in each of these diets that make it work. So if you are a vegan, if you are a carnivore, and you make this long-term work for you, that's great. Keep doing what you're doing. But this is for the majority of people that are confused, that are just trying things out. This will really help you make a decision and make a sustainable choice that will last a lifetime. So to get us started off, we're gonna choose a diet that exists somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. We got veganism on one side, carnivore on the other side. We're gonna go with paleo, which I believe is somewhere in the middle. What do people in the paleo community believe? Well, they believe that our hunter-gatherer ancestors were a lot healthier than we are today. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors before the agricultural revolution. And in most cases, they're actually correct. When the European settlers came over to America for the first time, some of the things that they observed about the natives is that they were taller, they were more muscular, they were more vibrant, they were healthier. What did the natives eat? They ate meats, they ate a few crops, fruits, they were hunter-gatherers. And so people in the modern day take the paleo diet and they remove everything that came about with the agricultural revolution. Most grains. They're not eating wheat, they're not eating bread. Even some of them choose not to eat starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes or potatoes. They say that that came with the agricultural revolution. So what are some of the pros of eating in the paleo diet way? Well, first of all, if you're doing it correctly, you're actually eliminating all processed foods from your diet. Processed foods didn't exist before the agricultural revolution, therefore you're not eating them. Now, there's a lot of marketing and a lot of companies that have come up with paleo products that are processed foods, but if you're doing paleo right, you're not eating any of those. Another thing about the paleo diet is it's actually pretty well balanced. I mean, it's restrictive in the sense where you're not eating breads or pastas, you're not eating most grains, but I mean, you still got all your meats, you got all your veggies, you got all your fruits. So it's a well-balanced diet that can be sustainable. Another great thing about the paleo diet is it's actually relatively easy to stay lean. You're not eating processed foods, which means you're less likely to overeat. You're not eating as many carbs, which carbs aren't the enemy, we'll get into that in a second, but you're not eating as many carbs, which means less food cravings for the most part. So if you're going paleo, this might be easier for you to stay lean. What are some of the cons of paleo? Well, for one thing, athletic performance. You will not perform the same when you're in the gym or when you're in your sport. You just won't. There is nothing like carbs, especially starches, that fuel your performance. You get those pumps, you get that energy, that endurance. By going paleo, you're stripping a whole food group for the most part out of your diet. You're still getting some carbs from vegetables, but all the starches, especially potatoes, are a great source of carbs to fuel your athletic performance, and you're just cutting that out. Another con is it's hard to put on weight, put on muscle on the paleo diet. Cutting carbs out almost entirely of your diet, it's gonna be really hard for you to gain muscle, gain mass. So if that's your goal, definitely don't suggest going paleo. And the final con is it is restrictive. It's not as restrictive as some of these other diets, which is why I put it in the middle of that spectrum, but you're still restricting yourself. I mean, if you eat a burger now and again, there's no bread for you, just a meat patty and some veggies, which hey, some people make it work, but you are restricting yourself and almost demonizing a whole food group. And I totally understand the philosophy behind our hunter-gatherer ancestors being healthier. I mean, I even went paleo for about 6 months several years ago, and I felt great for the most part. I leaned out, it was hard for me to put on weight, but you can really make the paleo diet work because all these diets we're talking about, it's the most well-balanced. For all you keto warriors out there, let's talk about the background of where the ketogenic diet came from. The way that keto started is it actually began in the medical field to help people that had mental disorders such as epilepsy, Alzheimer's, dementia. By feeding these people really high quality fats, you're giving your brain the building blocks and the fuel it needs to really run on high performance. Think about it, your brain is made up mostly of fat and cholesterol. So by feeding it high quality fats, you're really gonna get your brain used to burning fat for energy. Keto warriors believe that carbs are the enemy. They say they wanna get fat adapted, get their bodies used to burning fat for energy. Now here's the thing with that. Humans are opportunists. Throughout history, we ate whatever the hell we could eat, and the human body operates best on a combination of glucose, carbs, and fat. We need a little bit of both. Our brain works better with fats, our bodies work better with carbs. We are omnivores at heart. So by demonizing an entire food group, an entire macronutrient, you're restricting your body from fuel that can be used to fuel your workouts, fuel your athletic performance. The body works best with fat and carbs. But what are some of the pros of the ketogenic diet? Well, the first pro I'll tell you, because I've gone keto for a short period, is the mental clarity. I cannot emphasize this enough. But when you go keto, the first thing that I noticed was that my brain was so sharp. My memory was on point. My conversation skills were through the roof. It felt like Limitless. You know that movie? Boom. All of a sudden, my brain was working at a higher level because I was giving it high quality fats to burn throughout the day. You're also going to become a little bit more efficient in burning fat, right? Your body will adapt to all the fat that you're giving it, so it will eventually adapt by burning that fat and then more likely to turn onto your body fat as well. Now let's get into some of the cons of keto. For one thing, it is extremely restrictive. I mean, you're restricting yourself to primarily only fats and proteins. Their food choices are limited. You're gonna go out with friends, you're gonna go out with family, and you're gonna be so limited to what you can eat. I mean, life is way more interesting than just to limit an entire food group, an entire macronutrient. And another con, which is huge, is that you're basically not eating fiber at all. So you might have some digestive problems, maybe some diarrhea, constipation. So in my opinion, keto is not sustainable. It has its medical uses and maybe you try it out here and there, but I don't think it's a long-term strategy for health and wellness. All right, let's go and look at one of the extreme diets out there on the very end of the spectrum, carnivore. I'm sure all of you have heard about the carnivore diet and maybe you hear about it and you're like, what the hell? These people only eat meat? Like what? Yes, that's exactly what the carnivore diet is. They only eat meat. The belief is that vegetables are bad. You might hear that and be like, huh? Like grandma always said, eat your veggies. And you know the crazy thing is in one way, small way, they actually are kind of right. So let's go a little bit deeper into that topic. Are vegetables bad for you? Well, here's the thing. Vegetables, plants themselves, are a form of life. We may not think of it because they're inanimate, they don't move, but they have defense mechanisms that are designed to not let insects or smaller animals eat them. Right? If certain insects eat them, they get sick, so then they don't eat them. Therefore, the plant can survive. It can last longer, it can reproduce. So these plants have defense mechanisms. We can call them anti-nutrients, call them phthalates, oxalates, lectins. They have these things in them that will deter insects and smaller animals to eat them. So people who go carnivore say that these defense mechanisms in plants make it so humans shouldn't eat them. But you see, the problem with that is that humans are smart. Once we were able to wield fire, we started to cook our food. And once we started to cook our food, cook our vegetables, cook our meats, that allowed us to get more out of the food that we ate. It allowed us to digest our food more. And it also, in the case of vegetables, got rid of a lot of these anti-nutrients. So if you're cooking your vegetables for the most part, you are going to lose some vitamins and minerals, but you're also going to be able to get rid of a lot of those anti-nutrients. Another thing is humans are smart. We learned how to ferment. We learned how to sprout. We learned how to make methods that got rid of a lot of the problems that comes from eating raw vegetables. So I don't fully agree with that point that vegetables are bad. They have a point with the anti-nutrients, but it's a little more complicated than that. Not everything is black and white. Another thing they demonize is fruits. A lot of keto people do this as well. They say that fruits are bad because fruits have sugar and carbs are the enemy. And right now I want to get off the bat that is complete bullshit. Fruits are one of the best things that you can eat. Think about it this way. Vegetables don't want to be eaten. They have defense mechanisms to deter being eaten. Fruits, on the other hand, their whole purpose is to be eaten. Why have fruits evolved to be sweet? Why do they have vibrant colors? Because they want to be eaten. Once they get eaten, animals will eat the seeds. They will eat the seeds, roam around, do their animal things, go poop those seeds out, and those seeds will grow to be more plants. That's how plants spread. They get eaten, that's how they spread their seeds, through the poop. I mean, poop has great fertilizer too, so there's a great starter kit, right? And then boom, you got more fruits in different areas. Fruits want to be eaten. They have no defense mechanisms for the most part, and they are highly nutritious. Sugar, carbs are not the enemy. Stop demonizing entire food groups. What are some pros about carnivore though? In my opinion, it is the best elimination diet out there. What do I mean by that? So many people have a lot of food allergies, whether they're aware of it or they're not. And having a carnivore diet for a small period of time, maybe weeks or months, will really allow you to eliminate pretty much all the foods that cause allergic reactions. Autoimmune problems can come from the foods that you're eating. Certain fruits or vegetables can cause these in you. And so by taking all foods out besides meat, which very few people have allergic reactions to meat, you're not going to have inflammation. You're not going to have these systemic problems of autoimmune issues. And then from there, you can slowly start introducing more and more food so you can identify what are the problem foods for you. And then from there, you can customize and have your own diet. You know, as good as it sounds, eating ribeyes all day, that's going to get boring. You're going to be limiting yourself. It's the most extreme diet. I'd say maybe besides one other diet, which we're going to get into. It's the most extreme diet. When you go out with friends, family, you know, you're not really going to be able to enjoy that much. And a lot of times maybe indulging in something that might not otherwise be good for you, but if you're doing it with good company, good conversation, good people, good vibes, and the health benefits of that alone will outweigh the problems of eating that food, especially if it's not all the time. You might come into some nutrient deficiencies because you're not eating any plants or fruits or anything. A true carnivore eats the animal nose to tail. They eat all the organ meats and they get all those nutrients from the organ meats themselves, which are highly nutritious. I mean, liver and heart, brain, some of the best things you can eat if they come from a healthy animal. You know, but most people don't. Most people don't have access to that. Most people don't like the taste of it, so they just end up eating the muscle, the flesh, the ribeyes, the steaks. And you're gonna come into problems with nutrient deficiencies if that's all you do. All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. We're gonna take that carnivore diet on this end of the spectrum, and we're gonna go to the very opposite end of the spectrum, and we're talking about the vegan diet. Now, before I get into the vegan diet, I just wanna say that, you know, if you make this work, which you can, being healthy on a vegan diet takes a lot of preparation and a lot of thinking ahead of what you're gonna do. It's also gonna take supplements because at the end of the day, there's certain nutrients that are essential that you can't get from plants alone. So you're gonna have to supplement a bit, but you can make it work. If you are vegan for the moral choice of not wanting to harm animals, then that's your belief. Don't let me, don't let anyone else take you away from your belief. Keep doing what you're doing. Just learn how to make it work for you. Now, having said that, let's dive into the vegan diet. Vegans believe that eating meat is terrible for you. Humans should not eat meat. Meat is the cause of so many problems. And let me say this, in a way, they're actually right. They're right in the sense that factory farmed meat is absolutely horrible for your health. You got a healthy animal will produce healthy meat. Unhealthy animal will produce unhealthy meat. And so in these factory farms, first of all, what are they feeding it? All right, let's take cows. Cows are supposed to eat grass. That's all they're supposed to eat in nature. But in the factories, they feed it corn, soy, these genetically modified crops to fatten them up. Feed the cow that shit, it's not gonna be healthy. Then what do? You take those cows, you don't let it see the sun, you don't let it get any fresh air, you put in these little spaces. What's that gonna do? Well, the cow's gonna be depressed, it's gonna be stressed, it's gonna have cortisol and adrenaline running through its body. It's gonna make the meat tough and tense, filled with these stress hormones, and also the emotions of the animal will also be in the meat. They inject it with hormones, they give it antibiotics. Well, guess what? You're eating all that shit too. However, demonizing an entire food group, such as meat, is not a long-term strategy. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in these meat substitute products like Beyond Burgers, Impossible Burgers, which, if you look in the ingredients on these fake meats, those aren't healthy for you. They're making millions, if not billions of dollars in this industry of fake meats, vegan processed foods. If you go vegan, a lot of times you're just gonna replace whole natural foods with processed junk, and just because it's meat-free, you're gonna think it's healthy, which at the end of the day is false. Human beings did not get to the point where we are right now by not eating meat. One of the reasons why we transcended the animal kingdom is because we had the ability to harness fire. Fire allowed us to start cooking our food. By being able to cook our meat, we were able to get more nutrients out of eating it, which allowed our brains to get as big and as complex as they are today. Another big con about the vegan diet is how restrictive it is. It's so restrictive, it will lead to nutrient deficiencies if you're not planning ahead. If you're not getting your vitamin B12 shots and not taking your creatine or your supplements, you will feel like junk, your body will start to rot, and it's just not a sustainable diet. In my opinion, the vegetarian diet is a much more balanced diet, and you can survive and thrive eating eggs and other animal products. You don't need to eat meat to be healthy, but it is a lot harder and takes a lot more planning. So that's my breakdown on all the popular diets, but where do we go from here? My perspective on dieting in general is that number one, instead of worrying about cutting out all meat or cutting out all this or demonizing certain food groups, how about you demonize and cut out processed foods? Regardless of who you are, eating more processed foods, which have been engineered to be highly palatable, which will make you overeat, which leads to all the health problems that our society deals with today. So simply cutting out processed junk and eating more whole foods, you've already done your body, your mind, and your community a service. Because a better you, healthier you, is healthier for everyone. But hold up, because following a diet for a set amount of time is really beneficial. You will learn a lot about yourself, you will learn a lot about food, and so I think that going vegan for maybe a couple months, going carnivore, going paleo, going keto, will really help you teach discipline. It will get you in the mindset of being able to say no a little bit more. And that ability to say no is very beneficial to all areas of your life. Everyone is different. Everyone has different needs, different goals, different anatomies and physiologies. Find out what works for you, explore a little bit, but don't get so tied down. Don't get so dogmatic with the food that you eat. Learn what foods work, what foods don't, and then make your own customizable diet. That's it. Thank you all for watching. Go ahead and leave a like, drop a comment, ask any questions. Maybe I'll make a video answering them, and I'll see you next time. Yeah.